Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are out there in the world. It's time for another episode of SoundTraxx Soundbites podcast. That is our train talk from milepost 141. We are on season 2, episode 14. I had to go look that up a minute ago because it seems like every week we're doing one of these, and so it's amazing how time flies.
It is.
It's crazy. So anyway, so we're back here. Hopefully we'll share some good information. We'll share some entertainment. We'll share some faux pas. And we'll have some fun. What do you say?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, for those of you just joining us, my name's George Bogatuk. My primary function with the company is as what we call the product expert. And I've been here at the company about 16 and a half years. I turned 17 in October, which is absolutely insane to me. And the time flies.
It does.
And you've been here, what, 5 weeks now?
Yeah, it's hard to believe it.
Yeah.
But I'm still the new guy.
Yeah,
I think I'll always be the new guy.
We're going to keep throwing the rookie term around for quite some time, just to make sure. But so anyway, with that, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name's Tom Austin. I'm the product support technician here at SoundTraxx. I started in June. We're grateful to be here. I've known George for a long time. George and I are both Missouri Pacific modelers, but I've been a long-time supporter of SoundTraxx products before I got the privilege and honor to work here, and I'm just glad to be here at the same time enjoying what I'm doing.
Having fun and sharing knowledge.
Absolutely, and helping you guys out there enjoy your SoundTraxx purchases and make sure you haven't run into any snags or any problems. That George and I are here to help you correct those and further enjoy your purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you guys watching on video, we normally then dive into projects, and you'll notice that my side is kind of empty, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, you've got this beautiful Jeep 15 in front of you. Why don't you share a little bit of info about that, and then I'm going to hand you the second camera, so that you can show it off.
All right.
And we'll go from there. I'll kind of put that over there. You can kind of guide it around as needed.
Yeah,
and then there we go. That's a good start. But yeah, go ahead.
So this kind of goes into like George's your latest series he's doing on our YouTube channel, where it's Rehab Your Locomotive. It kind of talks about we're kind of rehabbing older locomotives and bringing them up to modern standards, putting the new electronics in them. This one here, in case we'll get into, it's got a little bit more than that, but it goes along with that. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's Missouri Pacific, so like, what else? What other railroads are there? I didn't know there was. But anyway, this is a 2010 Athearn Genesis release, GP15-1, I think the original release. And what I did to it is I stripped it of paint and repainted it with True Color Jinx Blue. And then on the inside of it, of course, clean the mechanism. Like George talked about in his video, we cleaned the mechanism. It has new Northwest Shortline semi-scale wheels in it because I just wanted to try them and see how they work. They're fine. It has a Blunami PNP8 decoder in it, scale sound system speaker in the back, and I'm going to add a SoundTraxx mini cube up front. And the reason I'm doing that is I found that I kind of want to protect my decoder's amplifier and at the same time make sure it can handle the 2 watts. The speakers can handle the 2 watts that are being put out by that wonderful amplifier in the sound. So this will be wired in series with the speaker in the back. It'll be sitting up here on top of that little thing that goes over the flywheel. Mm-hmm. And then basically give you just a little bit more enhanced sound, and then allow me to mess with some of the dBs and stuff on it and get the sound a little more of the mid, a little less of the highs out of it.
Okay.
A little more of the high, I should say.
Yeah.
It has custom decals. The decals are made by PDC.ca. These are 20-inch Missouri Pacific numerals on it, and he did the eagle emblems for me as well with that. And then the stripes, other than the chevrons are microscale, but the stripe is painted on with the airbrush. Mm-hmm. So what I did is I just primed the model, and then shot the white around the sill, and then taped it off with Tamiya tape, and then including the step on this side. You can't see it because it's on this side right now, but we can move it around. But
go ahead. Let's grab this secondary camera so you guys can see the work on this other side as well. So you can see he's got the white safety striping there on the step, and that's above the blower ducts.
Right. Same thing was done there too. It was taped off with Tamiya tape as well. So like I said earlier, electronics wise, it's a SoundTraxx plug and play 8 Blunami. So it has both the Blunami interface and it has the the ability to be a DCC decoder as well. One thing I did do, it's different up top, is I tried this new Gotham Rail and Marines spark arresters. He has some really fine mesh screen. It looks really good. He also supplies a jig to cut that to make it fit, and then I just fold mine like a little tent and just set them right on top of it. You can actually put a little bit of glue there if you want, but I found that the way we handle our models, we're very careful. You can actually just leave it there, and as long as you get the metal folded in, it'll actually look pretty good. But it allows you the opportunity to look down into the exhaust if you want to. And then it'll get the usual George treatment. It's got the class lights drilled out, ready for lenses. It's got the number boards ready to go. It'll have truck lights, and then of course the front and rear headlight.
Yeah, and these Gotham ones are actually pretty cool. I use those on my GP12, and they look really good. The only downside is they are very brittle too.
They are. You got to be very careful.
You got to be very careful with them, but they look really good, and being able to see through them. And I know, and this may be experienced because. In the 70s, I was still a kid when these things were being delivered.
Right.
At 77, 76, 77, when these things were being delivered, I was 3 and 4 years old.
Right.
So I didn't remember much about it, but I do remember seeing some of the later years where that mesh had either blown off or they'd removed it during maintenance.
Right.
And these the Gotham Rail ones allow you to have that open view look to it, which is really cool.
And if you want to go with the older, or like you said, in the mid-'80s, whenever the Union Pacific took over and they painted them yellow,
nobody wants to do that.
Nobody wants to do that, but
especially you, Daniel Coombs.
Well, and and shout out to Kevin Love. This one here is blue too, Kev. See, true blue, baby. It's you could also have it set up with like George is talking about with the spark arrestor, where they remove the screens, because Union Pacific started removing all the spark arrestors from the locomotives when they started painting them yellow and putting Union Pacific on the side. So kind of took away from the Missouri Pacific look, with the spark arrestors and the bell on the side and all that.
Yep.
But it goes along with the, as we're waiting for new models to come out, you can buy new electronics and upgrade existing models like this. These can be had at train shows, and like I said, I strip it. My models, when I strip the paint, I use 91% isopropyl alcohol, which is like $4 at Walmart or any of your local stores, and it's it's biodegradable and it won't hurt you. Yeah. And it'll take the paint right off of the Athearn, and you can repaint it and pretty much do whatever you want to with it.
Now, you'd mentioned something about some gussets or some side plates or something. What were you talking about there that you added to the model? You had some side plates or gusset plates or something underneath on the side frames or under frames somewhere?
I think this one just had this one here just has the new Northwest Shortline wheels.
No, you were saying something about some side plates under here that you had added.
Oh, I got you. I know what you're talking about. Okay,
yeah, you were literally just telling me about it.
I know what you're. I remember the pilots on these engines. When you buy them, they have a bigger buffer plate on it. So what I did is I cut that buffer plate off and I file it smooth. And what I use, and actually the Athearn coupler box / buffer plate that goes on their 38-2s, 40-2s, and Jeep 50s will actually fit right in without any modification, and it lines right up with the hole that's in the Athearn shell, so you can tighten your couplers down, and then it gives you a little bit. It's not a scale buffer plate, but it looks better to me, and it also just gives it a little bit different look. These have the etched metal steps.
Okay.
And the walkways that are laid
over.
So
you did update that as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I didn't cut mine out. I just laid them in there. So I got good gluing surface, because once it's painted, you can't really see.
And that's the thing. Adding something like that is really good. Well, you go ahead and leave it on there, because I'm sure people want to hear it.
Yeah, it's got the Blunami in it, and she's set up to run. And
we'll go ahead and fire it up and get your phone woke up again. And you've done some pretty good work to it. And yeah, when you put those steps on top of there, it's hard to notice that they're not actually see-through. But they do add that extra little element to it, so it looks really good.
And full admission there is like one of the reasons I started doing that is a lot of the modelers, and especially like where you're going to the RPM in 2 weeks, they're really good at that. I never really, that's one skill I never perfected, was cutting those steps out. So I'm just kind of like, maybe it's a lazy approach, but I thought I'm just going to put them in there because I want that look of the tread plate to match. And these were done by Brian Bana, these steps.
Okay.
So Brian did these to match the tread plate on the Locomotive, so they look really nice. And then when you blend the Jinx Blue in, you don't really notice it.
Okay. But on this one, you have the EMD2 sound, correct?
This is the EMD2, and then like I said, I do have some with EMD that so I can mix them in, mix and match. So
okay.
Like I went and ran at George's house a couple weeks ago, and he had some mixed EMDs, and it really makes a really nice sound when you get 2 or 3 G15s, and then the prime movers you can raise and lower the pitch, but you can also with the different prime movers, it really sounds good.
Yeah. And it gives you that variety, so it's really a great added addition to it. So,
and I did lower the pitch on this one a little bit, so it's
so this is the 12-cylinder 645 that's in the EMD2. You said, correct?
Right.
Okay. And yeah, you haven't put any of the lights or anything in it yet, so it's still technically a work in progress.
Right. It's had the dynamic digital exhaust calibrated, so that's why it's revving up. So I got the brake set. So I did a little bit of the momentum on it today while we were sitting in the office.
Yeah.
Before I came in early.
Yep.
And the brakes were set per the George's recommendations on our SoundTraxx YouTube page. I was watching some videos, so I set it up with your Missouri Pacific page, recommendations, and the brakes are pretty much set up just like that, independent and everything.
Okay.
The acceleration, deceleration rates are the same. So
yeah, it's always good to be consistent when you pick your momentum rates, and that way all of your models can run together. So once you find what you like, it really does help.
Well, and like I said, then not to harken back to that too about the running at your layout. These decoders, when you have them set up like George has his dialed in, you can really mimic what a real locomotive works like and sounds like and operates like. The brakes, everything. You get the whole effect. So it really made a big impression on me because I ran 3 trains with the same 2 locomotives, or 3 trains, and it was like 4 hours because we operated it prototypically. And I did overrun a yard limit sign, so I got 30 days off for that. But I did, that was one of my deals there. But we changed the orientation of locomotives with the classification lights, the lead engine becoming the trailing engine becoming the lead engine, and so on. And it made a big impression. Plus, running the engines and switching with them at this speed so much more realistic and so much more fun to me with the Blunami amp. Also, it made it really simple.
Yeah.
So
exactly, and all your functions were labeled. So when you came over with your device, it took me a couple of minutes to rename the functions so that you knew which buttons turned on which class lights or which number boards or whatever, and then you were fired up and ready to go.
I turned it down a little bit too because, like I said, until I get this other speaker in, I want to take it easy on it, make sure I can. It doesn't sound bad, but it sounded a little bit distorted earlier when I had it louder, and I just turned the air horn down. I turned down the master volume a little bit too, do recommendations as well, and it really made a big difference overall. And I said it really sounds good, just as it sits.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
No, it says.
But these things are really good. I recommend these too as well because these are. Even as 4, I was going to put 4 in, and I thought, well, I'm going to leave this one in here for now. And then, cause I bought a few of these, and I was going to put 4 across the top, but I thought, we'll see. I've got another one sitting at home too with a short note, 81-inch nose. I was going to start on it too. It'll be blue too. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll let you keep it.
Yes,
we'll let you keep your job for a while if you're going to make sure
it's
you
going to
have
be
the
blue
ones.
Gerald, shout out to Geraldine's. I did paint a yellow and gray one for Gerald, and it's a beautiful engine. Kevin, this one's blue too, like I said.
All right. Well, that's a nice looking engine, and I can't wait to see it finished. And since it's a different number, it's certainly welcome anytime over at my house.
Right. Well, that was the idea. I chose a number that I surveyed what you had on the fleet, so this one here can go on loan over there.
There you go.
And run on the George's layout and fit right in. The settings are ready to go, and it's got Blunami, so he can MU it right up in the consist, and there he's running.
Nice. Perfect. All right, well, we'll go ahead and mute that off.
Okay.
And I'm just going to slightly move it over. Not that it's a big deal, but so as I mentioned, for those of you listening on audio, there's nothing in front of me. And part of the reason is, and you knew the story, but after you came over and we ran a few trains, and I left the layout up because I was going to take the next day. I was off the next day, so I was going to run some more trains the next day. Well, at night, I was out working in the garage. It was warm in the garage, so I'd open the garage door to let some cool air in, which was a fail because it didn't really cool off.
Right.
But it was a warm day, and it was a dry day, but, you know, it is what it is. But while I was doing that, I was adding lights to my my scrapyard, so I could put some lights over it because, again, I'm adding more and more lights to the layout. And anyway, so I'm in there, I'm working, I get everything working fine, and so of course I want to admire my work, right? So I turn the lights off, and I'm looking at it going, all right, that looks cool, great, all right, perfect, night done. Then it was still warm, so I left the lights off for a few minutes trying to get rid of some of the bugs and the critters that had flown in from seeing the light, going, oh wow, look, I could come in.
Bright lights.
So I went outside to try to test and feel kind of how cool it had gotten off, and wondered if there was something wrong, because it always seems like when I mow my grass, that wind will blow it right in the garage. Right. It's like, I don't understand how. It could be on the other side of the yard and somehow there's grass clippings in my garage suddenly, and it just drives me nuts. But anyway, so I walked outside and looking around. I'm like, okay, well, it's not really cool out here. I mean, it's comfortable, but it's not like need a warm cuddle up in a blanket and go to bed type cold. So anyway, I start walking in, and I apparently had lost track of where I was and bumped right into my shoulder into the staging yard. And we had just finished running that pseudo cold train that we had. Right. It was 3 cars. It was a SD40-2C number 6009. It was the new Jeep 15 that I talked about on our last podcast. 1555. and then at the other end of that track, I had that Mopac Mountain, the 482 Mountain.
Right, the excursion
train. And all 3 of them took a nosedive, all on the concrete, and parts were scattered everywhere. And it's dark, so I can't see anything to catch.
Right.
And I'm just like, no, stuff is falling off. And anyway, the good news is 1555 survived the least amount of damage. It's back up and on the layout already.
Okay.
Detach a couple of minor things. I had to replace the firecracker antenna, and it's done, ready to go. It's been running fine. The steam engine is in the process of getting rebuilt because I found all the parts. Like my injectors came off, one of the lubricator gauges or whatever inside the cab came out. Luckily, and I feel like I dodged a bullet here, because luckily my class lights didn't fall off, and those were the class lights that I have the green and the white LEDs inside. And if those had sheared off, I'd had to redo all that. So that stayed perfectly fine. Those are still nice and tight, but I can't find the bell and I can't find the headlight. Those sheared off the front.
And they're somewhere in the garage.
They're somewhere either in the garage or in because the garage door was open, so It was right outside in front of the garage in the asphalt. So I figure they're somewhere. I'll find them sometime. So I've got new ones coming from Precision Scale. I've actually got them already at the house now. The bell's installed, and one of the other things that happened also was, I guess it took the nosedive and it crunched and smushed some of the faceplate of the smoke box. And I was looking at it, and it's like, well, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it. And so anyway, I was talking to a friend of mine that I do installations for on the side, but I've been doing these for him for almost 17 years now, maybe longer. And he said, hey, wait, you have one of my old Friscoes that you were using for parts, a Frisco Light Mountain. And I was like, how did you remember I had that?
Yeah.
So I went into my box, and sure enough, in the bottom of it, I didn't even remember I had it. And the thing about it is that in that case, in that particular model, the frame is literally cracked where the drivers are at, and then the part that bolts up under the cab into the chassis is cracked. So there's no meshing of the gear. So that's why I have it for parts.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't even remember I had that. But how did he remember? Anyway, the good news was I was able to pop that smoke box off of there, and I've got a new smoke box front now, new headlight. I'm in the process of doing it.
Bell on the way.
Bell's installed.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Bell's installed. But the lights that I'm working on, I'm changing up my lights a little bit on it. And so I'm going to have Well, let's just save it for another episode of the
I can't
podcast.
wait. It's
So you guys will wait and see. Hopefully that'll be really cool. But anyway, the last one, 6009, is, I think it almost took everything landing on it, as damaged as that model is. Doing a quick survey, I found pretty much what I believe all the parts are. They're sitting in a box next to it, and it's on the service bench. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to swap out the frame. That's how much it brunted to.
Wow.
I think it bent the frame a little bit. But I was so frustrated and just sick to my stomach. I put it out. I grabbed as much as I could, found as much as I could, put it on the shelf, and I haven't looked at it. And it's been like, what, 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
Something like that.
About 3 weeks.
I was like, I'm not going to deal with it right now. And then, of course, I've been back and forth doing a bunch of shows. We were at Spring Creek Model Trains Open House a couple weeks ago. As of this recording, I'll be at the Novi for the National Train Show this coming weekend.
And then RPM next week.
And then St. Louis RPM the following week. So a lot of travel. So when I get back, I'll maybe muster up the courage to look at it. But I may be forced to install steps. I do remember seeing a couple of steps missing.
Well,
I just hope the actual walkway or the stairwell is there, because if that's the case, then I'm gonna have to sacrifice the whole thing, and that's got all the lights and everything on it, all the detail parts I added, and
it's a beautiful model.
I just hate to do it.
It made me sick to hear the story, to be quite honest, and not really living it, but
it is what it is.
It happens.
Stuff what it is. I mean, the reality is nobody got hurt, nobody got damaged, and nobody got broken or hurt or injured or whatever the case is. So the good news is it's all fixable. It's just, more work that I didn't plan on doing. So now, instead of being able to move on to another project, I'm going to have to go back and fix that one up. So
it'd be another rehab your SD40-2C.
Yeah, there you go. But I will tell you, I've been shopping plexiglass, and so I'm not putting that staging yard up again until I have the plexiglass to put in place.
Good idea.
So that way, at least I'll have a shield. So this won't happen again. But in all the years I've had that, going back to, when I had the old house and had that up for years, not once has anything ever. I mean, I bumped into it gently and stuff rocks, because it was just on PVC legs, but never has it been to the point where I knocked into it so much that stuff fell off of it. And so I guess I've been lucky so far, but I managed to not be able to dodge that one anymore. So unfortunately, some work is going to happen.
Well, and that's probably the only time it'll ever happen.
Yeah, well, it'll be the last time.
That's it.
Well, that's a plastic table, so we got to find something else.
Yeah, I don't have.
We'll knock on your head.
Oh, yeah, there you go. But I certainly hope so, because I know the feeling.
So my project, what I decided to bring, and I'll go to camera B over here, is I've got our little mini George. Now these are these HO scale, O scale, and N scale mini Georges that you can get on our website right now. I was 3D scanned, and you can see this is one I painted up in O scale, and it's got an amazing amount of detail. Look at that handsome fella down there.
That's great. Everybody should have a George on their layout.
Everybody should have a George on their layout. And so therefore you can go to the website right now, and with a purchase, you can get it for free, or you can purchase them directly on the website for your own layout. So be sure to check out at SoundTraxx.com. One thing I did want to talk about today, though, this has come up a couple of times, and one of the times was especially on this last trip. There's a lot of clubs out there and people who really just don't understand how DCC works. And I'm not trying to be offensive in anything, because there's not a lot of information out there. I use myself as an example, because prior to me working in the industry, when I had my train club back in Texas, I was the DCC guru, and compared to what I know now, I didn't know squat.
Right.
And so the reason this came up was we had a good customer. I've seen him many times at shows. We've gotten along, I see him and everything. But he didn't like that I was telling him, he said he's running his locomotive on the layout, and suddenly the bell would start ringing. And I said, well, you're using Digitrax. He goes, well, yeah. But I said, well, the problem's not the decoder. The decoder has no free will of its own.
Right.
And this is something we've talked about, because you coming into the industry now, we're kind of in the same boat. You could make a train run with your throttle, but you didn't really understand the fundamentals. And so,
and then a lot of phone calls go along with this, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks in particular, which is really ironic and coincidental.
Yeah. And so, from a SoundTraxx perspective, the decoder doesn't have any free will of its own. In other words, if your model starts doing something, on its own, it's because something's telling it to do it. You notice this model has been sitting here still muted the entire time because that's what it's been told to do. And it hasn't been given any new commands to do anything. And it sits there and it'll be quiet the whole time. No, neither of us have unplugged the track power. As a matter of fact, camera B, you can still see the power light on the NCE cab and the track power plugged in. So it's not like we've removed anything.
Nancy and company have not put AI into them yet. So
yeah, there's no free will of its own. And so my point of this is that what happens, and especially in a club environment, and we talk about this, we kind of alluded to this earlier, when you talk about mass-produced models, a lot of modelers that do the same railroads tend to have the same numbers. Like, you came over and you have 1555, you have 62, and 15... I forget the third number from the third run, or from this most recent run, but you picked up all three of them.
Yeah, 1562, 72, and 1555. One of them's a CNEI engine. So
correct.
1572.
So, but my point is that when you have these club environments and everybody has similar models, what happens is you put them on the track and then they say, oh, well, I want to run my 4014, let's say. And so what happens is then you'll pick yours up and take it away, and I put mine on the track and I start running it. Well, we assume that the DCC system then takes that command and eliminates the previous commands and only goes with yours. But the reality is that original command doesn't always disappear. And this especially gets compounded in a club environment because most people don't have the ability to run something like, say, the big boy, the 4014 or whatever that is at home, so they bring it to the club where they have the big train layout.
Right.
And they'll typically run consists of locomotives. And this is, again, where this type of thing will happen, is because at the same club that was set up, one of the other members was building his consists, and he would run his train around, and after a while, suddenly the brake squeal would start on one of his one of his second or third units.
Yes.
And he was getting frustrated, and I came over, I said, if you did an advanced consist, chances are that probably wouldn't be happening, because an advanced consist sends one command, whereas if you build the consist through your DCC system, you're sending a command to each locomotive in your consist. And then when you take that off and rebuild and build up and break consists and rebuild them up, that just starts compounding that DCC queue, because the system needs to be purged every so often. And this is a very, very common thing. And some systems are worse than others. I will say that, but I'm not going to throw any systems under the bus. But if you start experiencing some oddball, maybe some random sounds, or maybe a locomotive starts running away, a lot of times what's happening is there's two commands embedded in that system that are then broadcasting on the layout. And the decoder sees a command for 1621, for example, to move forward speed step 10, and then another command for it to sit still. And so the decoder starts to rev up its engine, but it hasn't moved yet. And so you hear that engine fluctuating as it's just trying to do what it's told to do, but it doesn't actually move, because by the time it gets the new command to stop, it's already stopped, so it doesn't start moving. And so this is where a big troubleshooting part comes into play, especially when you're doing your decoders, is, take the time and also, operate them, play them on different systems, because at the same weekend, he picked it up and took it to another test system, and it worked just fine. I said, well, then the decoder's fine. It's not randomly doing anything.
Right.
And, but it's hard to understand, because the decoder is where the symptoms manifest themselves. And so it looks like the decoder's misbehaving because my throttle says it's supposed to be doing X, Y, Z, and it's not. What's wrong with the decoder? But we can't see the DCC signal like we used to once upon a time. So when we were DC operators, we sat in a pit and we had all these rheostats and power packs, and we'd turn track, and our trains would run based on where we turned the toggle switches on and so forth. And so if a train was supposed to be running on a section of track, we grabbed our multimeter, stuck the probes on the rails, and said, well, that says that's got 6 volts DC. That thing should be running. So now the problem's here.
Right.
And so what the problem is here is that we're applying that same mentality. So, well, the track's powered up. That thing's not moving. What's wrong with that? And it's not always the case. And so, especially in a club environment, I highly, highly, highly recommend that, especially if you're like, say, for example, a weekend warrior, where you guys set up at a train show for the weekend, and then you tear down, and then the layout sits in a warehouse or somebody's storage bin for the next 3 months, and then you go to the next show, pack it up, set it up. My recommendation, my personal recommendation, is to learn how to work with your DCC system, do a system reset that first day and in the morning of the second day, because as you go through the day and everybody starts running all their different trains, all these commands are going to do it, because the reality is that most people aren't going to go watch SoundTraxx webinar 14 on YouTube to learn how to do advanced consisting, which is the best way to do it. And then let's add that on, and we're going to go to webinar 9 to teach you how to use the 3 major DCC systems, including Digitrax, MRC, and NCE. And I teach you how to use that step by step, using what buttons, how to operate your trains, how to program decoders, and things like that. So it's basic. So the basics. But the reality is that when you get in a setup like that, you're going to have a whole collection of operators that have different experiences. They're going to go in and just start pushing buttons. They're not necessarily going to know. So if you do a regular reset of your command station, then it'll clear that memory queue out so that every day you start with a fresh thing. And if you start noticing random issues popping up, then you go in and do a reset of that command station again. Now, the reset of the command station doesn't change the decoder. All it's doing is clearing the memory of the DCC system that you're using. And so that way, when you first select that first locomotive and start running it, that's the first command for that locomotive in there that session. And the funny thing was that, and I say funny, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. These guys are great people. They've got a gorgeous layout. But after showing them all of this, they still didn't reset their system. And so from that perspective, but they were still frustrated and getting irritated because the sounds were coming on that they didn't intend, but they didn't understand how all the stuff was working. And so hopefully after spending the weekend with them, doing some time, they kind of have a much better understanding of all of that. And now they're going to hopefully implement a DCC system reset, because they said, at the end of the weekend, when all this goes away, it goes into a warehouse for the next, 2 to 3 months until the next train show comes up. And then they put it up, they power it up, they put a loco on the track, it runs. Okay, great, time to run trains.
Right.
And then these members start grabbing their own thing. And then, of course, I'm sure there's community throttles, as well as some may have their own. And then that's when that DCC queue just starts going. And you would think that when you power it off and power it back on, that should reset the queue, but it doesn't always.
No, and the other thing is, if you're as a Digitrax person as well, dispatch your engines when you're done with them, but make sure you shut all the functions off too when you do it, because that's part of it. If you don't do a reset, that command might still be out there, and floating around, in the Loconet.
So I know this was a little bit more of a serious topic, but it does help overall troubleshooting, because when you get a decoder, first off, when you get a SoundTraxx decoder, you put it on the track, it powers up. That way you know it's working. Blue pilot light comes on. So if you get a blue pilot light and it doesn't start up, then, or if there's no sound, now you kind of know where you need to backwards engineer. But we've got a lot of help available online through the user's guides and all of that. And the idea is to try to make it more fun and enjoyable for you to run your trains. So ultimately, I hope this has been a very good look into kind of the behind the scenes of what it is and how it works. And if you want to learn how DCC works, here's another webinar for you. Is you want to go youtube.com, search SoundTraxx Webinar 4. Webinar 4 is what is DCC and how does it work? And what we do is we pull the curtain back and show you the little green man behind the curtain and what levers he's pulling and how all this stuff works together. And so that way, when you have that knowledge, you can actually go in now and see how all this stuff works. Because I'm not a technical guy, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, I'm just a dumb sales guy who loves model trains, and I learned all this stuff. And so I'm happy to share all this education with everybody out there, with you, with any fellow modelers that are willing to listen.
Likewise.
Because they always say knowledge is power, and when you know more things about how it works, you're less fearful or intimidated by it, so that way you can just get back to relax and enjoy the hobby of model trains.
I couldn't say it better myself.
Perfect. Well, and if you do have any questions or comment, call Tom.
Yes.
Now
I'll ask George.
Well, you're getting better. You're not asking me as many as you are.
No, I'm getting. It's coming along very, very nicely. Still studying the steam engines, and that'll be a project I'll bring out at some point but I want to. It's a Crab Orchard Egyptians number 17.
Oh yeah, you were showing me that.
A steam engine, so that's coming. But
you're giving away too much.
Yeah, but you just got to. I won't tell you what it's starting with, but you see if you can figure it out.
Tune in when he's ready with that one.
Yeah.
But yes, give us a call if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, or if you want to dive deeper into it. Watch those webinars that we talked about. Webinar 4, what is DCC? Webinar 9 is how to use the major systems. Just watch the first few minutes and you can skip to the system of your choice. And then Webinar 14 is all about how to consist multiple locomotives using advanced consisting, which really will save you a lot of effort down the line. So with that, that's everything I've got prepared for today. I know we've kind of run long a little bit, which is good and bad.
That's fine.
But it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that, I guess we'll sign off. We appreciate y'all tuning in. And like I said, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, give us an email, support@soundtraxx.com. And Tom or myself will be able to answer any questions we can. And as you're watching this, if I got to see you in Novi or get to see you in Novi, I look forward to that, and as well as the St. Louis RPM. So stop by, let us know you listen to the podcast or watch the podcast if you're watching on video. And let us know if you have any thoughts or have any ways to improve it. We're always open ears.
Yep, and thank you all for supporting SoundTraxx, and we're here to help.
Yes, sir. So that's it. That's this episode of Train Talk from Outpost 141. This is the SoundTraxx Soundbites podcast. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.